All right. Good early morning or afternoon, everyone. Just before I get started, I want to let you know that this will be recorded. And when it comes to questions, I'll stop recording just to save a little bit of recording space. But thank you much for joining me on a Saturday. I know that it's summer, so everybody's got lots of plans going on. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. But Ani, hello, my name is Megan Lortine. I'm the Indigenous Relations Manager at the Jane Goodall Institute of Canada. My pronouns are she, her. And I'm joining you from the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe people, which include the Odaha, Ojibwe, Potawatomi nations that are collectively known as the Three Fires Confederacy. I also wanted to acknowledge that our office is located on the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, the Wendat, the Mississaugas of the Credit Nation, First Nation, and it's also part of the Dish with One Spoon territory, which is a shared treaty to peaceably share and care for the land, its waters, and all the biodiversity in the Great Lakes. So just before we get started on talking about the Indigenous Micro-grants Program, I wanted to talk a little bit about the Jane Goodall Institute in Canada, just in case you don't know of us or you're new to us, just to share a little bit about who we are. So we are one of the 30 chapters that are part of the Global Jane Goodall Institutes, which was founded in 1977. So collectively, at JGI, we're a global community-centered conservation organization that advances the vision and the work of Dr. Jane Goodall of inspiring hope through action. So in JGIC, what we really do is we support our work at home in Canada and in Africa along what is known the Chimscape. In Canada, it is our mission really to support youth and communities in implementing projects that address what we call as the convergence of the three crises of climate change, biodiversity loss, and environmental inequity. So the way we do this is through our four little pillars of community-centered conservation, which I mentioned earlier, inspiring hope through action, which is Dr. Goodall's legacy, these integrated solutions, and local partnerships. So as I mentioned, in Canada, what we have two main programs. We have our Roots and Shoots program, which is a globally recognized with 50 chapters around the globe, environmental youth leadership program, which uses 4 steps to inspire hope through action for young activists. So these 4 steps are getting inspired, mapping out your community, taking action, and then really celebrating your impact. So these 4 steps are really to provide tools to young people to come up with ideas, connect with their communities, address these ideas, and just celebrate the work of themselves and their community in their spaces. A cool piece of our Roots and Shoots program that I think it's November, we have another microgrant program called the 8 Fund, which is about $1,000, which schools and organizations can apply to in order to execute some of these projects that these young people are bringing forward and just support them in their passions and their goals. So another, I guess, pillar of our Canada programs is what we're currently calling UCG Plus. So about 4 years ago, we started this Uncovering Common Ground project, which supported Indigenous and non-Indigenous young people in addressing barriers in their communities using these Roots and Shoots methods. And over the past 4 years, and as we're coming up in our 5th year of implementing and supporting Indigenous youth programming, we've heard back from participants and communities. What we've really found is that we feel that what we're able to do is to support Indigenous youth and communities in doing the work that they're already doing and us supporting them in those spaces. So hence develop the Indigenous Micro-grant Program. So our focus is really about fostering respectful relationships with these youth and these communities and supporting their conservation efforts as they are the original stewards of what is now known as Canada. And similar, like I mentioned before, we take a community-centered approach and guidance from our partners as how we can support them in their goals, which really leads us to the Indigenous Micro-grant Program. So with funding from Employment and Social Development Canada, JGIC, which is the Jane Goodall Institute of Canada, launched our Indigenous Micro-grant Program, which supports Indigenous youth, which have project ideas that address our 3 main themes, which is reconciliation and decolonization in the conservation sector, preserving the environment for future generations, strengthening Indigenous youth resilience, and promoting well-being. We also left some space for any other themes that youth have identified. As youth goes up to the age of 30, Indigenous youth goes up to the age of 35 in Canada, And those are sort of really broad. We also wanted to provide a space if any Indigenous youth who are passionate about something that want to bring something forward, just to share that theme and yeah, connect with us about that. So eligible projects can receive up to $5,000 with a minimum application amount of $1,000 towards their projects to help cover costs associated with reaching their project goals. So it is really our hope that these microgrants will support Indigenous youth and their intergenerational allies in coming together in these spaces in order to participate in that intergenerational knowledge sharing and knowledge transfer as a way to pass down that traditional ecological knowledge, while also informing what is going on in their community. And our goal really is to help support them in leading more compassionate lifestyles and fostering sustainable futures in and out of their communities in Canada. And this project is available across Canada, not just in Ontario where we are based. Oh, missed one here. So who is eligible? So this is for youth-led projects. So we are asking that youth are introducing or coming up with these ideas and supported by an organization, or if there is an idea where you're facilitating youth leadership like programming, that is an option as well. In Canada, Indigenous youth goes up to the age of 35, so anybody technically under the age of 35 is an Indigenous youth. It is also our goal and our priority to support Indigenous organizations and Indigenous communities in applying. They will take priority when we're doing our evaluations. If you are an Indigenous organization, community, or working as a part of an Indigenous organization. And lastly, we are asking that you're CRA registered. It doesn't mean you have to have a charitable status number, but if you have like if you're a registered society, a registered nonprofit, or registered charity, and that's great. If you're not sure, please reach out to me. There's been some ways that we've worked with other organizations in the past. What I'm going to say throughout this whole thing is I encourage you to apply first, and then you can shoot me an email, which I'll give you at the end. That way we can talk about things. It won't just be like a hard no if you put something that you aren't registered with the CRA. I'm open to have a conversation about that. So what I'm going to do next is just briefly go through the application altogether. Just so if you have any questions, like if you can save them to the end, that would be great. But just maybe it'll clear up some of your questions as we go on. So the question is the applications are made up of about 15-ish questions, and about half are just contact information, so we can get a hold of you if needed. So the first part of the application, which you will see on our website, is just your contact. So your organization, community name, the primary contact, so the person who is applying for this funding, the email, a phone number, so we can reach you via email or phone, the address that you guys have, so however we can reach you, so whether it's there's opportunities for maybe that I'll be able to come out and visit and see what's going on, or just where you're located, your town, your province, postal code, and country. So super straightforward, just contact information first. So at the bottom of the first page, when you are on our website, we have a couple of like I agree questions. There's a select all, so you don't have to click all of the buttons. But this is just to give you an idea of when we are signing our agreements, or we are sending out the agreements. These are some of the things that we are going to be asking and checking up on as we have these chats. So we need to make sure that the funding is funding to support the project is outlined in the application. So when we do have a chat, or if you are successful and you get this money, you need to ensure that it is in alignment with what was in the application. So you commit to returning any unused funds. You will share any relevant statistics, stories, narratives, or other agreed upon data to JGIC as a part of our monitoring and evaluation program and pieces. You understand that all expenses and activities must be completed by March 31st, 2024. That is the project end date. Any activities or expenses after that date will not be accepted, and that you declare that this project is being developed by or in partnership with an Indigenous-led organization or community. Like I said, this funding is for Indigenous youth or Indigenous organizations and nations. So we really are encouraging applicants to either be Indigenous or be working very closely with an Indigenous organization or youth. Next is the budget, which is always super fun. So the way we have it set up is just very simple. If you are successful, there'll definitely be a little bit more of a conversation. This is always just an estimate. Even in our funding, budgeting is also an estimate. We just want to ensure that A, you're not exceeding $5,000, B, that the expenses that you're outlining are in line with our funding requirements to ESDC, and that there is a little bit of a breakdown so we can sort of start planning out what those funds are going to be used for. So there is a section that's other fees, which is anything that maybe we didn't cover in these budget lines, but you'd like to talk about. So anything that's put in other fees will be discussed between myself and yourself if you are successful, just because we wanted to ensure, like I mentioned, that those fit within our funding requirements. But just to go over really quickly, so materials or any things you need to purchase in order to execute the project. So if you're doing, I don't know, leadership training, so if it's you need to buy people booklets to take notes, or if you need to purchase equipment in order to complete it, if you're doing beading, it's beading supplies. So any material like objects that'll be related to the project. If there's going to be like a large item purchase, that will just need to be discussed with myself first to ensure that is in compliance. But besides that, it's pretty flexible. Hospitality, so any food or space rentals. So we understand that, you know, food is an important part of gathering, so we totally understand that. So just budget that in there. If you're looking to buy people lunch for gathering, or if your people are hanging out over dinner time, there's a budget line for that. So any communications, any social media posts, any advertising you're looking to do, printing, that kind of stuff, we have a communication line. Honoraria and speaker fees. So if you're bringing someone in to facilitate, if you're working with an elder or knowledge keeper, or even if you are bringing in a youth to do some speaking or presenting, there is a budget line for that. And there also is a travel fees budget. So if there's any mileage, if there's like a rental car fee that you need to do, bus passes that need to be purchased, anything like that, that would go under the travel fees section. At JGIC, what way we do mileage is 0.68 cents per kilometer, and I can share that with you if you're successful in the agreement. And then finally on that page is before we move on to budget, you just have to click yes that you agree to submit a detailed financial report upon the completion of the project. Next, we get more into what the project is about. So here you have the project name. So whatever you feel is the project name that would best represent what you're hoping to complete as a part of the project. You also have your summary of your proposed project. So we just love to hear what you're looking to do here. So just your pitch, I guess, about what your project will be. And finally, what you're looking to achieve will be the next section. So what are you hoping to do, or what are you hoping to address by doing this project? If there's anything that is unclear, so or if you're unclear, if maybe your project is applies here, please still apply. We are pretty flexible. Our what we're looking to support is also flexible, and I'd rather you apply and then hopefully we can have a conversation than you just maybe don't apply and not get the funding. I'm always for applying first and then asking questions later. So that's my motto for this project as well. Secondly, we get into a little bit of the expectations and the activities. So we'd like to know what your expected results are. So what will be the measurements that make you feel that you've been successful in your project? So we have some samples here that you're more than welcome to use. It can also be number of youth who attended event. It can also be youth attesting that by participating in this project, they feel an increased responsibility to the community, or they feel more equipped as leaders in their community. So whatever you feel is a testament to the results of your project, we'd love you to put here. I would do no less than 3 and no more than 5, just because it is such a short time frame. And finally, what are activities? So what are you hoping to do physically during the project? Is it hosting workshops? Is it bringing in knowledge keepers? Is it connecting on the land? So whatever you're looking to do, just list it here, just so we just like to know what you're planning on doing. Oh, right, my little bubbles here. Finally, provide a timeline of your project. So the project, I'll talk about our timeline a little bit towards the end, but what is your timeline for the project? So when are you looking to hopefully start? As I mentioned, the project needs to be wrapped up by March 31st. So anytime between start time and March 31st, what are you looking to do? I would also be interested in maybe visiting, but I'll 100% connect with you if you're successful on that. But maybe there's an opportunity for me to come and hang out and see what's going on. But I'd just be interested to see what's going on, and maybe if there's an opportunity to connect your organization, other organizations in your area on activities too. It'd just be awesome to see. Finally, what themes is your project addressing? Like I mentioned here, you just click which ones apply, and then there's a section for a youth identified theme. And then finally, is this project youth-led? Yes or no? So just as it applies, and what you expect your project impact to be. So estimate the number of youth that will be directly involved in the project. So these are youth with the hands-on involved in the project, and estimate the number of other community members who will be directly impacted and involved in the project. So this is technically anybody over the age of 36 that will be involved in the project. So that can be staff members, volunteers, community members, knowledge keepers, facilitators, anybody else you feel that will be participating in the project. Just put an estimate here. It's not your, I mean, it's your job to aim for that number, but it's not, if you don't meet that number, there's no harm or foul. It's just an estimate. Yeah. And finally, the timeline. So applications for the Indigenous Micro-grant Program end July 14th, sorry, at midnight EST. So then my goal is to have decisions made and agreements developed, created for successful applicants by the 21st. All people who have applied will be notified whether you're successful or not, just so we know where everybody stands. My goal is to have agreements hopefully returned and signed by July 28th. I'd also would really like to meet with successful applicants just to go over a little bit more about me, introduce myself, go over the agreement because it is a little bit word heavy sometimes, and just chat, and if you have any questions, just answer them at that time. Finally, as everything goes smoothly, we're hoping to have funds released by August 18th at the very latest, and as I mentioned previously, our goal is and our hope is to have projects all wrapped up and your report submitted if you're successful by March 31st 2024. So that's sort of it for the Indigenous Micro-grant Program. I want to say thank you for your time on a Saturday and listening to me speak. I know I speak a little bit fast, so hopefully you're able to catch everything. My contact information is there. If you have any questions, please reach out to me either via email or give me a call, and I'd be really happy to either talk with you or shoot you an email or even set up like a video call to go over things and even support you in filling out the application. I just want to say miigwech, and now I will open the space for questions. And I'm going to stop the recording now.